In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this Bazinga text effect using Adobe Illustrator. To get started, just jump on over to Illustrator and make yourself a new file. And we are going to be choosing from the web templates today, and we're going to grab this minimum size of 1024 by 768 pixels. Now once your artboard comes up, the first thing we want to do is put a background color into it. So go and grab your rectangle tool from your toolbox. In your properties, just pick any old fill color. We're going to change it in a moment. And turn the stroke off. We don't want an outline around our shape today. Now starting in the top left corner, just click and drag to the bottom right corner so your rectangle fits the artboard perfectly. And then I want you to go to your gradient panel. Some of you might have to go to your window menu to select that gradient panel so you can see it. And from this gradient panel, the type of gradient we want today is a radial gradient. So just select the radial gradient. Now we need to change the colors here. The colors are up to you, what you want to use in the background. I'm going to go with a purpley kind of color. I think that'll contrast well with the yellow, white and black text we're going to be using today. So I'm going to double click on this first little white gradient slider here. And at the moment I can only choose between black and white and some grey colors here for my first color. So if you are in the same boat as me and you can't get out of this grayscale mode, you can go to these little lines and dots up here and choose RGB. Now I'm looking for probably a mid-range purple at the moment, so something probably like something like that won't hurt. And then for the black slider, let's do the same thing. Just select the RGB mode and get yourself a purple, but this time I want you to go a bit darker than before. So you might have to use your little sliders to get it a bit darker. Okay, not too bad. So they're kind of similar to each other. Now just use this little gradient slider here to move it around until you're happy with how that gradient looks. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to go to my layers and lock that into place. So I'll lock this rectangle here into place. Might give it a name that just says BG, which stands for background. Now on top of this background, we're just going to put a white circle. It's a plain white circle. So go and grab your ellipse tool from the toolbox. In your properties, change that fill color to pure white. Hold shift and draw a relatively large circle on the page. Now to get this circle aligned in the middle of the page quickly, you can go to your align panel. Some of you again might have to go to the window menu to get that up. And with your shape selected, make sure you are aligning to the artboard. And then where you've got align objects, we're just going to choose to horizontally align the center and vertically align the center of the shape. And that puts it smack bang in the middle of the artboard. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We can lock that layer now into place because we are finished with that circle too. And if you want to give it a name, by all means go for it. Next layer is just putting the text in. Now when you put the text in, you need to change your properties to change that fill color to black. And you'll need to change a font to one that you'll need to get from the internet called Badaboom BB. It's a free download from dafont.com. I'll put the link in the video description below. So make sure you go and click on it, download it and install it on your computer. If you're in my class though, I'll give you access to that font. Now with Badaboom selected and you've got a black fill color, click on the page and just write in capital letters the word Bazinga with an exclamation mark on the end. And then we're going to, whoops, just lost that font. There it is. I'm going to change the size now. So over in your properties, get in the size there for the font and make it 250 point, which will make it pretty big. Alright, you can put that somewhere over the white circle at the moment. Don't be too fussy. We'll align it a little bit later on. Now with the text in position, what we're going to be doing now is putting some effects on the text. And instead of putting an effect around this entire shape, what I want to do is break up each of these letters. So I want them as individual letters, so each letter gets its own effect rather than the entire word getting an effect around it. It'll look better if we do it to each letter. So the way we do that is we break it up, and we need to click on it and go to Object and Expand, and make sure Object and Fill are ticked and click OK. And that just breaks your text up into individual letters. At the moment they're still all grouped together, so you might need to right click and ungroup them. And now when you hover over them, you can see that little blue outline going over each of the letters to show that they are all separate now from one another. Okay, so any effect we apply now to this text is going to be being applied to each individual letter, which will look a bit different to what it would if we were to select the whole word. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is just click and drag over the text so it's all selected, and I'm going to go to my Appearance panel. As always, you might need to go to your Window menu to get that Appearance panel up. You'll see you've got a stroke at the moment and a fill color appearance on this text. I'm just going to minimize both of them for the minute, and I'm going to click on this black fill option. While I've got that black fill option selected, I'm going to go down the bottom to my Effects button, and I'm going to choose the Path and Offset Path effect. Okay, so you can already see a bit of an effect appearing on this text. We're going to try and change it slightly to 8 pixels for the offset, and we're going to make this a round join. The miter limit can stay as 4. And you can see, actually the preview box isn't working, but you can already see there's a black outline appearing around the text. So we'll click on OK. It's basically just put the same shapes around our text, just 8 pixels bigger than our original font. Now from here we're going to go back over to our Appearance panel, and we're going to put another effect on now, and we're going to go to Distort and Transform this time and choose the Transform option. We're simply going to move that fill color 7 pixels horizontally, so it moves it to the right a little bit, and 12 pixels vertically, which moves it down a little bit. You might have seen that as I was typing those in. If we click on OK, you'll start to see there's a little bit of an offset there now between our original text and this new effect we've put on, this black fill. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a new fill color in. So in this Appearance panel, make sure you've still got the black fill selected, and the new fill button is this one just here next to our Effects panel. Add a new fill. When you click it, you'll see we've got 2 black fills now. The top one, I want you to change to pure white. Okay, so you can see our original text now is white, and that black fill underneath is what we applied a few effects to. Okay, remember we offset the path and just moved it a little bit to the right and down, so now we've got this cool shadow behind our text. We're actually going to put in one more fill, so while we're still clicked on the white here, press the Add a New Fill button one more time, and the top fill in that box I want you to change to yellow. Now with that yellow fill still selected, I want you to go and put an effect on it. We're going to go back to Distort and Transform, and then choose the Transform option again, and we're going to move this yellow 5 pixels horizontally and vertically. And you can see now we get a little bit of that white shining through from before. You still see the black that we originally put on it, and now I've got that yellow effect. So we'll click on OK. The final thing we're going to do for now is just adjust this stroke. So what I want you to do is click on the word stroke, and I want you to change the weight of the stroke to 8 points. So just go up to 8 point. Now the cap I want you to change to a round cap, and the corner I want you to change to a round corner. And where you've got a line stroke, I want you to align it to the outside of the shape by clicking that button there. And that's looking pretty good. If you want to change the color of that, by all means change it, but I am looking for black at the moment. Alright, so that's our font starting to look pretty sweet. Next thing I want to do is put a bit of an, I guess it's like a pattern over the top of the text. It's not going to stand out too much, but it's going to be faded into the background colors of that font. So I am going to grab my rectangle tool to do this, and I'm just going to click once on the page here. And we're going to bring a rectangle in that's going to be 15 by 15 pixels. When you click OK, it'll look a bit funny, and that's because it has an outline color on it. So in your Properties panel, probably the easiest way to do it, just go to your stroke and turn that off, that rectangle, and then you'll see you've got a normal looking rectangle just there. Now I'm going to zoom in on this little rectangle and click on it one more time. And what we're going to be doing is right clicking now and transforming it with another shear effect. The shear angle needs to be 45 degrees, and we need to make sure it's running along the vertical axis. And then we're going to click on OK. We're then going to copy this picture, and then we're going to go to Paste in Front. You can press Ctrl F for the shortcut there, and that pastes a second copy of this shape in front of the original. We're then going to right click and go to Transform and Reflect, and we're going to make sure it's a vertical reflection, and we'll click on OK. So now we've got 2 copies here. And we just need to move this one over to the right a little bit. So we can just either pick it up and drag it, or you can actually right click and go to transform and move. And we're going to move it 15 pixels horizontally, 0 pixels vertically. And that will give you a V kind of shape. So click OK on that. Now with both of these shapes selected, so you might need to click and drag over them, I want you to go to your Window and Pathfinder menu. Click the first shape mode here, which is Unite, which will unite or join those 2 shapes together to make one bigger shape. Now with this shape, we are going to drag it into our swatches panel, which is this one here. If you can't see the swatches panel, as always, go and grab it from your window menu. And this is going to make a new little swatch, as you can see just there, out of that shape. And we're going to use that to fill in some of the colors in our text. So you can delete this off your page now. Okay, now I'm going to go back over here and click and drag over the top of all my text so it's all selected. And then I'm going to go back to my appearance panel. Okay, now we are going to add in another fill here. I might click on the yellow one, just click on add a new fill. So it adds a new fill to the top here. And from my swatches panel, I'm going to click on that little V shape that we just created. And you can see now my text is filled in with that new swatch that we have just created. Now back in my appearance panel, we are going to do some effects here with this fill. So just expand that fill option and click on the word opacity. We might try and change the blend mode. I wonder what overlay looks like. No, that gets rid of it completely. Not many of these blend modes are probably going to work, I don't think. So what we might do, just leave it as normal and drop the opacity. We'll start at 10% to see how that looks. And yeah, actually I'm pretty happy with that. So you can see we've got this effect now faded into the background of our text. So the opacity is just how transparent that shape is. So I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to right click on this text and go to transform and rotate. And we're not going to rotate the text, we're just going to rotate the pattern. So we're going to leave this angle here at 20 degrees. And instead of transforming both the objects and the patterns, uncheck the objects. Okay, and that way it's just our zigzag in the background there that has been transformed by 20 degrees. You can click on OK. You can see that's just twisted a little bit onto the side. So that's looking pretty good. And if we compare that to our original, let's have a look. Not too bad. One thing we could possibly do here is shear this entire text. So transform and shear. Now let's see. I don't want to transform too much here. Let's try 8 degrees again. Actually make it -8. I'm only going to transform the objects this time, so I'm not going to transform the patterns. Okay, so hopefully you got that. We've got -8 for the shear angle, and it's going to be a vertical axis, and we're only transforming the objects this time, and we'll click on OK. That just gives our text that little upward slope. Okay, so that's looking good. Next thing I'm going to do is put a little lightning bolt underneath our text, and we're going to make that ourselves. So I'm going to use my rectangle tool to do that, and I'm going to click once on the page, and I'm going to make a rectangle that's 160 width by about 60 pixels for the height. Click OK. Now I just changed the in the properties here, the fill color to pure black, and the stroke is going to be switched off. Okay, now with this rectangle selected, we are going to right click on it, go down to transform, and then the bottom option, transform each. Okay, so you can see we're making a copy here of the original. Now we are going to move it 160 pixels horizontal and 30 pixels vertically. So it's pretty much done what we wanted it to do. And we're just going to click on copy. Don't click on OK. We want to actually make a second copy. So click copy. And you'll see you've now got 2 rectangles. Now, before you click anywhere else, I want you to press Ctrl D to duplicate that shape and that transform effect we put on it. And I want you to do that until you get 6 of them. So you should have 6 rectangles now in a bit of a stair-like manner appear on your page. With those guys all on your page, I'm going to have to go to my layers panel here actually, and I'm going to have to lock my Bazinga layers for the moment. Alright, I just want those black rectangles unlocked, because what we're going to do is click and drag over them. And we're going to go back to our Pathfinder panel and click the first shape mode here of Unite, which will make that all into one big shape. Alright, now once we've done that, we are going to right click on our shape and we're going to share it. So we've done a bit of sharing in this lesson. And the angle we're going to shear at is about 35 degrees on the horizontal axis. Okay, so you can see the sort of effect I'm getting there. And it doesn't matter if we click Transform Patterns 2 now, because there's no pattern on it, so we can click on OK. And then we're going to right click on it again. Do the same thing again. We're going to transform and shear it. We're just going to adjust the angle now to -20. Okay, and that -20 should be on the vertical axis this time. So it puts it on a bit of an upward slope like the text itself. And we'll click on OK. Now this is a kind of confusing bit, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and just listen carefully. We're going to have to grab our white arrow from the toolbox here, so our direct selection tool. And I'm going to click in the top left hand corner on this anchor point, so it selects this anchor. I'm then going to hold Shift and click on the bottom right point, so the bottom right anchor point. And that's selected now, the bottom right and the top left corners of this lightning bolt. And then I'm going to delete them. And you're thinking, what's going on here? I've just completely ruined my lightning bolt. But trust the process, it's going to look good in just a moment. If we go up to the Object menu, make sure these are both selected still. We're going to go to Path and Join. That's going to join the ends together. Now, if I think I do that one more time, it'll look a bit better. Yeah, there we go. Oops, made it look a little bit nicer. Okay, so now we've got our lightning bolt all finished. So it's a little bit big for my liking. I might just resize it a little bit so it's smaller and move it up underneath this text. Now I just want to go back to my layers here. I'm going to unlock the text. I'm going to highlight all the text only and press Ctrl G, and watch my layers panel here. It will group it all together. So I'm going to write Bazinga for that layer, and that top layer is the lightning bolt. Now with the lightning bolt and the Bazinga, it's probably worth clicking on them and going to align and just horizontally aligning them in the center of the page. I wouldn't vertically align them. You can do that yourself by just picking them up and moving them around to where you want them. And that's pretty much it. So I don't think there's anything else we need to do. That is your Bazinga text effect, all done and dusted in Adobe Illustrator.